Hello all, and welcome to today's webinar. The topic today is develop your next SAPUI5 app using Neptune Application Designer. And this is the first webinar in a series of 3. Today's webinar and the next one focused on development, and the third one with the end-user focus, showing and demo the template apps included in the software package. All demos are run on the latest release of Neptune Software. Today's speakers are Ole André Haugen and Njål Stabel from Neptune Software. This webinar will be recorded and distributed to all the participants after the session. All participants will be muted during the session. Please use the Ask Questions section during the tab on your right-hand side, and after 45 minutes we will respond to all questions. The session today will primarily focus on demoing live the Neptune Application Designer. After about 40 minutes we will respond to all the questions posted during the session. I will now hand you over to Mr. Njål Stabel, who will go through the first part of today's webinar.
Thank you, Andreas. So, as Andreas said, this session will be about the Neptune Application Designer. This is the core component of the Neptune software offering. The solution is an ABAP development tool for HTML5 in short. It is SAP certified, and therefore it is installed as an add-on onto your NetWeaver system. You can install it on your ECC system, your business warehouse system, CRM systems, etc. This solution is currently on release 3.0, and you can download this as a trial version from our webpage, and there are also free development licenses there. A very important component is the SAP UI5 framework, which is now the standard for the next SAP user experience. This is also vital for Neptune Application Designer, and today's session, my colleague Ole André Haugen will show you how to use this framework and create an app from scratch, and we will also send out the recordings later on so you can look into how he actually created it and try it yourself. So I advise you, if you not already have the Neptune Application Designer installed, to install it and view the recordings later on and try it out, and you will be able to create an app fairly quickly if you have some ABAP skills from before. So without further ado, I will hand over to Ole André Haugen, who will show you how to create UI5 app using the Neptune Application Designer.
Thank you, Njål. So I will begin by showing the application that we're going to create the next 40-45 minutes. We decided to use the customer and sales order approach, which I think most of the ABAPers should know about the coding behind it. Also try to make the app productive usage, so the formatting, the layout, some functionality should be quite nice for the end users. So first of all, this is the app that we're going to create. We start by searching for customers by the sales organization, that is on select, getting the list of the customer that I have selected based on the right sales organization. Using a toolbar, I will explain how to use it. Just another filtering, but very nice to also use the toolbar in addition to the table component. Clicking on the customer, we will get the sales order. I will explain also the application class and the coding behind it, where you can see information about the customer using an icon tab bar. showing the sales orders, and getting more details by using a dialog box, which is also a pretty neat component. Also using the icon tab bar as a filter to have the sales order status completed, partially delivered, and not delivered. So this is the app we're going to create. So let's jump into Neptune. I'm coding on an IDE system, latest release. Every time you upgrade or change Neptune, we do recommend, or it's almost a requirement, that you also import the Neptune developer role. This role will consist of all the transactions that are delivered with Neptune. Quite important. So we start with the Neptune Application Designer. So start by creating the app. Everything you do in Neptune will be included in the transport system. It means that you do the development in the development system, get the transport, and transport into the test and productive environment. So same rules applies as normal ABAP coding. Setting the package. For now I'm using a local object instead. I'm not going to transport it to any other system. First of all, you go directly into the Settings tab. This is where you select your framework, the libraries you're going to use, and also connecting it to the application class. So, getting some description on it, webinar. I have pre-made the application class. I will go through it later on. So this is so all the ABAP coding, the internal tables and structure are already pre-made. There are you have three different options regarding the framework. You can select your own, a custom-made. You can use jQuery Mobile, but of course we strongly recommend using SAPUI5. This is Neptune's focus. This is where we do all the new development and putting effort into more and richer functionality, Neptune and UI5. So knowing a bit about UI5 is also important for the developers. The UI5 framework has a lot of different libraries. It says desktop and mobile. The desktop part is more for keyboard and mouse. The mobile framework is for touch events. My recommendation is using the SAP format called mobile. We can call it SAP.main, which is I think both for desktop and mobile coding, it's the best framework. So we will use the mobile framework in this case. I will just override the SAPUI5 language. This is due to me having a Norwegian browser, so it's better to display the messages in English. Next part, setting the theme. Of course, we can call the Fiori theme, the blue crystal, is the mandatory theme that you have for the mobile development. Of course, you can import your own theme using the theme editor from SAP. Now the libraries are set, we can start coding. Go to the designer. Now on the left side you will see the library. These objects are based on your selection in the settings page. So only that library you have selected will be visible. The layouts are mandatory for everyone, so we will always have the SAP UI layout. I will start with a shell. The reason for that is I would like to have a desktop application that narrows down the app with, that's the app with limited parameter. So it's a drag and drop designer. All components, this is the UI representation, or the tree representation of the UI. All objects will have the name, description. Some objects will have the binding. This is how to connect the data to the application class. And then you have all the attributes. Attributes are properties, events, and models. What you're seeing right now is not actually the 3.0, it's the upcoming support package or 3.1. Now we will always set the default values per component. So it makes it a bit more easier for the developers to understand the preset or default properties. In an SAP.m, the app object will be SAP m.app or the split app. I do prefer using the app object. In the application, we're going to create 3 different pages. So I will start creating them all. That's the start page where we do the search. I will give it a title. We will have the next page, which will be the list. And we're going to use the nav button so we can navigate back. Doing the navigation in an UI5 framework is using the app component, which is OApp in this case, and the method back. Now the detail page. And the same applies. Show nav button and OApp back, so I can actually navigate back to the previous page. So now all the 3 pages are created. Before I go any further, I will just show the application class, which are pre-made. So pressing the class builder, we take it directly into SE24 with the right object. In Neptune coding, the application class needs one interface. This interface will provide you with 6 different methods. The method that really applies in an UI5 environment is the handle on Ajax. This will send and get data from SAP and send it back to the client. To be able to use the binding functionality, connecting the data from the UI to the application class, these attributes needs to be public visibility. That is the requirement. Basically, there are 2 types of attributes. That is the internal table, declared in the dictionary. That is quite important. Or it could be a structure. These 2 objects are the commonly used regarding the UI5. If you just need attributes used internally, you can use whatever you want, but using it in the designer, connecting it in the UI, it's a structure and internal table defined in the dictionary. Okay. The first page was a form, a selection for the customer name and the sales organization. First of all, I will start by binding the structure, the search structure that I will send back to SAP. So on the page, this is a container, so I will go to the model source. This is the data now reading the public attributes from the application class. The binding might be very similar or familiar like the WebDyn Pro context binding. In our case, we are reading the public attributes. So I have a structure. I'm going to use the search field and the sales organization. So I'm binding the entire structure to this page. When I started, I would like to set some default parameters. So I'm using an Ajax ID called initSearch. This is just a pure string value. So if I look back in the application class, we start with handle on Ajax. And you will see, this is how I like to do it, that I use a case statement for the Ajax ID, and then different methods for the different handlings. We start by the initSearch. The only thing I'm doing is just getting the sales organization from the user parameters. If it doesn't apply, I'm setting a default sales organization at 1000 in our system. That's the only thing the initSearch will do. In a Neptune environment, all data fetching needs to be manually handled. It will not trigger as a default. The reason for that we have a mobile-first approach. We would like to have the communication between the device and SAP server as most effective as possible. So you as a developer need to control it. On this model, we will set the init load to online, meaning when you start the app, this will trigger instantly after the app is presented to the end user. I will use a simple form, which is a quite cool component for the kind of selection screen and presentation of structures. I said yes to make it as a child to the page start. So form start, that's a name. What we also have implemented in Neptune is all the variables should be a bit lazy, so we have some wizards that you can now insert the fields. I'm going to input field, so this is going to be edit mode. And in the wizard it will read the binding structure in this case, get all the fields, and I can select my desired field that I would like to display. Name and sales organization. Okay. It will now generate the label with already text inserted, the input field. Very important is the binding. This is done automatically using the wizard. The normal way is clicking on the binding button, selecting the field, and bind it. Now you're connecting the data from the UI to the structure that we're going to send back to SAP. I will start using the normal input for the sales organization, and we will change it later on to a different component. I will use a footer where I would like to place my button. So start. Some of the objects, since it is a drag and drop designer, needs to have positioning. So I will set footer for the bar component. A bar component consists of 3 different areas, left, middle, and right. So I will use the right positioning now. I will add a button, a search button. Giving it a text, search. The icon, you can press the help button. It will take you to the official SAP icon explorer. So we can see all the different icons that are available. So the name is search. The scheme for it, it's called SAP -icon, and this is how SAP UI5 name their own icons. So I will activate, and we can display the app right now. Displaying or running the app 3 different ways. You can run it internally into the designer. Every time you do changes, it will be updated, of course. You can run it in the browser, which will use your default browser. I strongly recommend, as a developer, you use Chrome, which has a lot of extra features that will reduce your development time. Or you can run it in the wrapper. Using the wrapper, you have different options like mobile phone, tablets, different orientations, to get a feeling on how it will look on the different devices. So as you can see now, we have 2 fields, the name and the sales organization. I set the default sales organization based on my parameters from my user. This is not very user-friendly, so we need to have a drop-down box. You can select the valid entries in the sales organization. So we're going to change an input field. Now I will use a component that's called, we have select or a combo box. I will use a select in this case, giving it a name. For the select components, that's also valid for the desktop environment, the library. There are 3 different sources. You can use the application class by fetching an internal table, or in this case we will use the dictionary from SAP. This is a table with the sales organization. I can press F4, get the fields. We use the sales organization and the name for it. And in this case I will also like to display the keyboard. And very cool part, without any coding, you can set a filter, you can set single values, or you can select a range. So I will use this sales organization. And I need to bind the content, is what you have selected, into the form. So I will do the binding on the selected key to the sales organization. Now I will delete the old field. I will just show the app, and now the content of the sales organization will be empty. The reason is this send and fetch data from a Neptune environment. So going to the page start, where we have the init load, this will be triggered automatically by the init search. I click on the additional send and receive button, and you will also like to get the content of the select. So starting the app again, you can see I have the entry in the select. This entry was achieved without any coding. This is using the dictionary. This is the beauty about being an ABAP add-on on top of SAP. We can use a dictionary tightly integrated into Neptune. So that was the search page. The next page we're going to create, I'm using the original app. Now we're going to create the list with all the customers. So in the page list, I will use a component called table from the SAP library. I will bind it to the internal table that I call IT customer. I can right click again using the wizard now in display mode, and I can select the desired field. I can also override the text if you would like. So I'm selecting the customer number, the name, and the city. In a table object, you have the possibility to, in the column, this is the header, so I can set fixed sizes for it, both the customer number and the city, and the name could just use the rest of the space. A lot of fields in SAP environment like sales order, number, customer number, they have leading zeros. To be able to format the data, there are a property called formatter. Very easy using the preset formatters, and remove leading zeros. Quite nice. Now the most tricky part about how to fetch and get data in a Neptune environment. When we click on the search button, we would like to start fetching the data for the tab customer. And I'm using an AJAX ID called get customer list. When I want this fetching to start, I go back to the additional send and receive. And I would like to send the form where I've done this selection, the input of the sales organization and the customer name. So I will send that to SAP when I would like to fetch the data in the tab customer. To explain how it works, this is how the data flow will happen. So on the device, we would like to press the button, and in JSON format, we will send some data to SAP. If you click on the send option, then you do the coding in the application class, you fetch the data, and it will send the data back to the device. In this flow, there are two very different or very important events. If you don't get any response from the server, it could be that you are offline. It will go in the event called AJAX error. If everything is okay, you got the data from SAP, it's an event called AJAX success. These are quite important events. In a UI5 environment, models is the data that you have on your device. What we have done is a transparent between an internal table will be one model on the device, and the structure will also be one model. So all objects that you bind to components will have their own model object with the data. That's also make the offline part with Neptune very, very easy. Some of the Neptune functions that will be auto-generated based on your settings will be how to get data from SAP. It's called get online, the object name, and if you like, a parameter that you can send back to SAP. So this is what we're going to use in this webinar. So when I click on the button search, I would like to start the fetching for a tab customer. So I go into the press event. Clicking on the script editor will take up a JavaScript editor. I tend to make it very user-friendly, so when I start fetching data from SAP, I would like to use the busy indicator, so you're telling the user that you're actually getting data from SAP. As you saw, I right-click and using the JavaScript helpers. This will save you a lot of time developing with Neptune. All the commonly used functions are already examples, JavaScript functions from Neptune. Now I will start the get online and tab customer. This will trigger, and this is a JavaScript function that will trigger the getting of data from SAP. So I'm still on the same page. I would ask for data from SAP, go to the component I'm asking for. You can see two events called Ajax error and Ajax success. And when I get the data, I would like to turn off the busy indicator so we don't block the screen anymore. And I would like to navigate to the list. So that is the method called OApp and 2, that's the method, page list. So let's see how the app is working. I can search for a customer name, sales organization 1000, doing the search. Now we get the data back from SAP. So we can do it again. And now we only navigate when we get the data from SAP. To be able to also handle the Ajax error if something happens, it could be nice to turn off the busy indicator when you get some error. If you don't do that, it will block your screen. So also remember the Ajax error if you're using the busy indicator. The next page we are going to create, I will show it first. And that is the page when I click on a customer. Now we're going to create a little bit more complex page using an icon tab bar, some data on the customer, the sales orders to the customers, and also with another icon tab bar by setting the filters. That's the next detail page. So let's go to the page detail. I would start with an icon tab bar. Yes. I tend to turn off the expandable option, but the icon tab bar can be expandable. Beneath the icon tab bar, we set a filter. These are the visible tabs that you will have. The icon tab bar are the mother, and this will be the visible filters. So that's the info. I'm using an icon, so it's quite nice visibility. Hint. Info. That is just some customer information. I will use a form. Simple form again. Form customer. And in this scenario, I will combine the page detail to a structure of the normal customer table. This will contain all fields. So I bind this structure to the page detail. I will use an Ajax ID called get order detail. I will explain the application class coding behind it. So in the form, just display some customer data. Using the wizard, go into the display mode and select customer name, number, name, city, postcode, and so on. And OK. It will now generate all the fields needed for the displaying of the customer data. I would like to have another tab bar filter. And that's where we will have the orders. So I can and some text on it. Yeah, order. Beneath that, I'm going to use the table component again. Giving it name, tab order, binding it to the internal table of the IT order. And again, wizard and display. I will present the sales document number, the item number, material, description. We can have the net value, and I would like to have the document status. So these are the fields I'm going to present in the table. I will leave it unformatted at the moment, so I will take that later on. We can go through and make the table look very nice. So now the next part, next getting the data, is clicking on the customer item. I can show back again. When I click on the customer, the row, I will send the customer number back to SAP, fetch all the data, and display it into the detail page. So on the customer list, this is the column list item. I need to enable that to be an active item. Now we enable the press event. I will go to the press event. Right click, I will use in the list table, I will get the selected row. You can, this is more like when you read an internal table into the work area in an ABAP coding environment. It's almost the same. I'm getting the context. Now I will get the value, the customer number. This is the value I'm going to send back to SAP. Again, using the BC indicator to show the user that we are getting data. Get online page detail. And in this case, we're going to send the value in the get online function. Why is it called page detail? It is this component that I have applied the Ajax ID. In the additional sender mode, I will get the customer information, that is just a structure, but I will also like to have all the orders. And when I get the data on the Ajax success, turn off the busy indicator and navigate to the detail page. O app to page detail. Let's try it out and see if it's working. Searching for customer name. Now you can see the items are active, so I can click on it. And now I didn't get any data. This is nice. Then we can use debugging. Debugging in Neptune is quite easy. So go into the application class again. The Ajax ID we are asking for is get order list. So I can set, and it needs to be an external breakpoint. Same as you do in BSP and WebDyn Pro, it's an external breakpoint. Doing so, when I click OK, the reason for that is me setting the wrong Ajax ID. So get order list should be much better. Just restarting the app, try again. Search, pressing the customer. Now you will see the busy indicator is turning on. And you can see the debugging is starting. Now my Ajax ID is get order list. I sent some value in the get online and value, and this is the Ajax value. This is now the customer number. So based on that, we are using, sorry that was too fast, I will do it again. I will just show the coding behind the get order list. So in this case, using the normal BAPI sales order get list. It's not much coding at all, using for the customer number. I'm going through all the orders and just actually misusing a field to set some status. We will have some delivery status in different colors. And in the end, just getting the customer work area, the structure. So I will just turn off the breakpoint again. And now you can see we are fetching the data, fetching the customer information, and all the orders. Now let's try to make this list a bit better. Removing the leading zeros, making the sizes, and also much better component for the value, and also coloring the different order status. So we can start by setting some fixed sizes on it, 40 pixels. We'll do this a bit fast. And then the net value. And on the column header, you can also set the horizontal align numbers. Very much better having it right oriented. And document status could be 150. So going to the content of the table, on the order number, we will remove the leading zero. On the item, we will do the same, remove the leading zero. On the material, the same, also remove the leading zero. Now for when you use the wizard, the standard text is the valid object. Are you using an input and you have date objects, you will get date components. But for the numbers, quantity, it's also great to have the unit of measure and so on. So the nice UI5 component is the object number. I'm just using the same name on it. The object number has a property for number and a property for the number unit. So I will bind it. Now we are working. As you can see, you can't bind to the wrong field. So if I try to bind to the wrong internal table, you can't actually, the fields are disabled. Now we are working on the order table. So I will go to the net value, that's the number, and number unit should be the currency. Then I can delete the old field. For the document status, there is an object called object status, which will have pre-made 4 different colors from UI5. The coloring of this object will be the state of it. Error, none, success, and warning. So it's only 4 different colors applies, but of course you can change that in theme, but use the UI5 as it is by standard. Binding the text. Now we're going to bind, the field is called doc status. And as you saw in, I'll go back to the application class, I'm using field in the internal table to set the different status called success, warning, error, and none. This is the same state that are valid for the property state: error, none, success, and warning. But now we will bind it, so it will be the application class that decide the coloring, the status of it. So mat_x, that was the field that we have misused. And now I can delete the old one. Let's have a look on how it will appear now. Starting the app again. Pressing on the customer, getting the data. And now the table looks a bit better. All the leading zeros are removed. The sizing of the column, much better for the end user. The value now has a number and the currency, and the status has different coloring. We can also make it even better with the value. We can go to the net value, the number, and use a formatter that pre-made like 2 decimals using the comma as a decimal, so it should look a bit better. Now we can see the value. Now it's much better for the end user to display it. One small cool thing, now I can't see how many orders I actually have, but we can set the counter on the icon tab bar by the number of items in the list. Doing so, going back to the Ajax success event, the component that we will update is called bar customer order. So in this JavaScript editor we have the auto completion. It will fetch the objects that you have in the UI. It will provide you with the methods. So now we will, this is the UI5 coding. I will have the object. I will set the count. The count is now based the length of an object containing the data. That's a pre-made object from Neptune called model, and the component name and the OData length. So go back to the application, start it again. So just select one. I now have 0 orders. Go back again to the other customer, and you can see 787. Using the table and list component, the default values are only 100 entries. It means that it will fetch 700 entries, but only display 100. So I recommend using the growing. You can use growing scroll to load and set a threshold for 50. Then you just scroll down. Just explain it. When you get 700 entries, it will draw the first 50, and as you scroll down, it will display the another 50 entries. Quite nice. So remember that only 100 will be the default visibility for all list and table components. I will take the next, see if I have time to the next table, but I will use really like to show the pop-up, a dialog, which is quite nice. So we will make the item clickable, having the order number, getting the order detail from the application class, and display it in the dialog box. So go back to the designer. I will create using a dialog. There it is. Actually, the placement of the dialog doesn't matter, because this will be an object that's only going to be visible when you use the method open. So I will bind the dialog to the sales order header. I will use the Ajax ID. Now I can use the get order detail. Now it's fine. First object using an object header. There's a nice header to display data. I can make it a bit smaller by setting the condense to true and responsive. I will bind the title to the order number, document number, document. We can have an icon on it. And the number could be, for instance, the net value. There it is, and the number unit could be the currency. That's just displaying some top sales order information. Now for the items, using the table again. Call it tab order items. Connecting it to the data in the application class, now the IT order item. And right click, wizard, and display. I will display the item number, material, the short text, and the required quantity and net value. So required quantity and yeah, we'll go for that. It's fine. Yeah, we can do the formatting later on. In a dialog, you will have two different buttons on the left side and the right side. As a default from a dialog, it doesn't have any button to close it, so we need to create a button for it. Just call it a but order close. In this object, I will use do not add to view because we're not going to display it in a page. It's going to be a part of the dialog. Text close. When I press it, it's going to be the order close. And I need to tell the dialog that on the right button, I'm going to use the object name of but order close. Then it will connect the button to it. So far, so good. Now, when we press on the orders, we need to fetch the data to the dialog and open it. So that's the next task. On the tab order, go to the item, the column list item, make it the type navigation, so we activate the press event. Using the JavaScript editor, also using the BC indicator, actually using BC indicator on every request getting data from SAP. And get online, that's the name. I need a value. The value in this case will be the sales order. So list table, I have the get selected row. In this case, the sales order number is the SE_doc. That's from the internal table. So I'm getting the sales order number, starting the BC indicator, then getting the data to the dialog. And by getting the data to the dialog, we will trigger the get order detail. Go to the button additional send and receive. You can see I will as default receive the structure that I have bind, but I will also like to have the order items in the same request. And when I get AJAX success, when we get the data from SAP, you will hide the BC indicator and the method, not so open but order. There's a dialog and open. So let's activate and try it. That was the wrong. Searching for the same customer again. Pressing the customer, getting the order list. Now when we click on the order, it should get the order header information and the items. And now pressing the close button will close the dialog again. So I think we should stop there regarding the coding. We only have 9 minutes left. I hope I explained it well enough how to get data from SAP, how to format it, and make it a very user-friendly application.
Okay. Thank you, Ole Andre. So what we will do now is we will go through some other questions that has been posted during the session.
Yeah, so thank you, Andreas. We didn't complete the entire app, but I asked Ole Andre before the session how long it would take to create this app without having to explain it to everyone, and he said maximum 5 to 10 minutes. So I suggested that we make another video with speed coding with Neptune, so we'll see if we will do that, and then you'll get the complete application. So we'll look through the questions here. And one of the questions was how will Neptune Application Designer work with the S/4HANA announcement? And I guess a lot of people are interested in this, as this was a release and the way forward for the next versions of SAP. And the good thing is that S/4HANA is still based on ABAP, and it's with a HANA environment, and we've done several implementations with ECC on the HANA device, on the HANA platform with Neptune, and it speeds up the applications drastically, and you can also use the stored procedures, etc. So using S/4HANA, definitely the user interface with simple finance now in the future, simple logistics, etc., can be used together with Neptune in Fiori-like solutions. So all your custom coding, if you're an ABAPer, I would suggest to use Neptune, and it will still be viable for S/4HANA.
Also got a question about documentation. In the designer, you will have the possibility per object to click on a help button. That will take you to our support site and explain the object and also how to use it in the context. We also have for the developers on the documentation, we have a new Neptune Application Designer cookbook, which will guide you through how to develop applications with Neptune. So it was released only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and that's important. So there will be videos like this recording, other recordings. There's a getting started guide. You get some information when you download the software on where these resources are located. Yeah, so documentation, there's a lot of documentation, and it's also, you can also use either the forum on our support page or file some tickets that our support team will handle. So don't hesitate to actually contact the support team if you have any issues getting started. So another question is, yeah, it was a question about Neptune and Fiori, and of course you can run Neptune together with Fiori apps, and we're also looking into not next release but the release after that to have a Neptune application run exactly like a Fiori application. So then you will be able to run it in the Fiori Launchpad. Now it will be an external URL that works as well, but it will be even better in next couple of releases. And another question was that if we're going to do a webinar on the Neptune application management, and yes we are, and the date is the 17th of February. So if you go to our news page, there's a list of the next webinars that's coming up. Another question was when the next support package is coming out. We're actually are thinking about having a 3.1 release. Our initial date is the beginning of March, but we will not release it until we are completely satisfied with it. It has a lot of the cool features that Ole André actually showed this beta release today, with automatic attributes and a lot of, and it's a new UI5 version as well. So 1.26 is included in that version, and that's important. Search help functionality. Another question here. We had a beta on the search help. With the mobile first approach, we think that both with HANA or T-Rex or other solutions, on a mobile device it's not really user friendly. On a desktop we had a solution for it, but it doesn't really. I strongly recommend to try to have a more people like Google searches better than the standard SAP. So for ex-SAP power users, of course, it's nice, but yeah. So it's possible. We have a beta for it, and Darren, you can just send us a question, and you can have the source code if you want to develop further on. Yeah. So I think we're about on our time now. So thanks to everyone for attending.
Yeah, and I'd just like to mention quickly before we close down the webinar, that is, as Njål said, the next session is next week, the 17th of February, where Neptune Application Management will be the main topic for that session. And also the week after that, or 2 weeks after that, again, introducing to the applications the templates with a more end user and usability focus. So with that, I would like to say thank you all for participating today, and have a great day.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.